Sri Lanka. Okay.
The company Renewable is based in Sri Lanka and they expanded internationally in Bahrain.
Okay. That's
But
interesting.
my own operation is here in Bahrain and slash.
You get an intro.
Say what?
The intro.
Yeah.
It's like a.
You got that.
Yeah, I like that.
You got all the animations.
Nice. Feel like a walking into the ring.
All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. So, in our first panel, we dig deeper on the food and agro entrepreneurship in a global scale. But now we're gonna more digging in deeper into the food and agro entrepreneurship in a regional scale. So what are the challenges? What are the potentials? What are the the exciting startups? The excited the accomplished companies that we can take it as role models and the programs, etc. So we're gonna go deeper on that in this panel session. For those of you who weren't here on the first panel, I'll introduce myself quickly and I will be passing the mic to our amazing panelists. So my name is Semi Hakim and I'm a co-founder of an organization called Cook Project. We work on developing and implementing acceleration programs focused on food, agriculture and water. We are a team that is based in Istanbul, but we're quite active in the region and we are working on developing acceleration programs to empower and encourage startups to build better food businesses. So that being said, I'm going to pass the mic quickly to our panelists. So could you introduce us yourself? Yeah, we'll start with Rashid.
All right.
Sure.
My name is Rashid Al Khalifa. I am the general manager of a company here in Bahrain called Peninsula Farms. We are started as a hydroponic farm and then moved into dairy farm and now even raising cats, raising animals, goats and sheep for meats production and soap production with the milk. So we got very diverse over the years and producing the products and distributing the products all throughout the hypermarkets, supermarkets, central market and even home delivery. It's been a journey and we can get into it with questions as and per you guys ask them.
Thank you so much, Rashid. Magdi, could you introduce us?
My name is Magdi Nimmer. I'm the founder and managing director of Vida Consulting and Business Development. So basically we operate in the food and beverage, consumer goods and retail sector. We help investors and startups in these specific areas. We have done different projects around food and beverage a lot. I'm also I'm a chief business development officer in a renewable energy company called Sri Lanka International, where we do different things around the technology of renewable energy in addition to renewable energy itself. So we do have our own solutions in energy management, conservation, electric vehicles. We do as well consulting and training, and that's what we are working with the Bahrain government on currently. Conducting training programs and certification programs for Bahrain.
Thank you so much, Magdi. Rami, please.
Yeah, thanks, Sami. My name is Rami Boujoude. I'm the Deputy General Manager of Berytech. It's an accelerator and an entrepreneurship support ecosystem in Beirut. We have a program called Agritech. It's an acceleration program for startups that are solving problems in the MENA region and beyond, looking at how can we convert and transform agriculture in the region and create jobs for people to be able to create more food security in the region and scaling agriculture production.
Thank you so much, Rami. Mohammed, could you introduce us?
My name is Muhammad Tawash, and I am who I am, I guess. I've even forgot how many hats I wear these days. But I think what's related to the GEC at CH9 is an accelerator that we've set 3 years ago here in Bahrain and happen to be the biggest in the Gulf. And we've got about 52 startups by now, some of them in food and agriculture. But I would say I'm the last one among the panel knows about food and agriculture, but I know how to make money out of the potato. So that's something that I've been experiencing. So beside the CH9, I'm a partner with a VC fund here in the MENA region called MIF with Iris Capital, and we invest in across sectors. It's all tech, happen to be all tech, and we are now willing to put in or introduce the food and agriculture into that dynamics. Last in March, we've conducted a boot camps with the SEMI and CH9, and that was the FAWASM, which is food, water, and agriculture. We had about 12 startups who has participated. Some of them are good, some of them are garbage, sorry. But the good one we choose, and the garbage one we revise, and we maintain, and we enhance their business model. So we take in the both sides. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mohammed. I want to actually keep the mic on you, and I want to start with, let's go, dig deeper on the entrepreneurship. As an investor, and with your many hats, how do you see the future of food and agro entrepreneurship in the region, and especially in the Gulf, as its potentials, as its challenges, or your insight on what is the future of holds for the future food entrepreneurs?
I guess the food and agriculture sector in 2008, in terms of funding, by the way, in a startup has shown a jump. There was $19.9 billion being going into the food and agriculture sector in startups. Very few of them, or very less of them, in Series A, which is a problem, because the most difficult task and the most difficult level for startups to reach the Series A funding. So many of them, they were seed, many of them, they were more growth. In the MENA, I haven't seen really a number, or maybe the data are not available, but there are very few. There isn't much of investment and funding, and seed investment has gone into the food, and especially the agriculture. Agriculture mainly, by the way, it's happening by a passion. Sheikh Rashid, mashallah alayhi, he liked agriculture, he liked the harvest, so he has carried on with this. But it doesn't happen with an investor's mindset or a VC mindset looking to invest in a tech. So I think we have neglected this food and agriculture tech for a long time, and it's about time to give it an attention, because when it comes to food security in the Gulf, it's a very high census, because we are a nation in simplicity who does not grow our own tomato. We import the tomato from different countries around the world, and our shipment and our logistics and our deliveries are one of the worst in the Gulf. So those tomatoes, by the time it gets shipped to Bahrain, 70% of it end up in the landfill. They get rotten. But in coming up with tomato harvesting is so simple. It's a commodity that everybody eat it, but we're not doing it yet. And that's the thing that has to change. But this is just one example and goes across the chain, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. And I want to pass the mic to Rami. So we talked about Gulf. How do you see it in Levant, in Lebanon and Levant region? The food and agro entrepreneurship.
I think the food security issue is as important, and I think as people from this region, we need to look at it much more seriously. We're seeing a bit more investment in smart farming. We've seen big farms taking place in several Gulf countries and so on. But I think we need to look at more investing in technologies that are looking at improving the agriculture sector in the region. So are we looking at smart agriculture that focus on arid production? Are we looking at breeding tomatoes that could survive high heat, low water, or salinity? Agriculture used to be half science, half art. And I think now agriculture has to be half science and half engineering. So we need to be able to, look at investing in production to create that food security in the region. But we also need to have the IP, and developing the IP and developing the knowledge of the communities in the Levant, in the GCC, in North Africa, and exchange that knowledge among ourselves to be able to produce solutions and agricultural solutions that fit our region's problems, the shortage of water, the climate change, and political turmoil that we see in the region. So that's super critical. And with that, when we're looking at startups that we're supporting, we always tell them, look at the bigger picture. Look at what are the options that we need to deal with. What are the big pain points that people are looking, and look not only at what the West is doing. Look at what the West have done, learn a bit from it, but don't copycat, because the farmers are not the same, the challenges are not the same, the climate is not the same. So we need to look at what is particular to the region, what could be scaled from here to the rest of the developing countries and developed countries if there is a need for it, but we need to be able to adapt our technologies to the level of farmers, their knowledge, their practices, and so on. And between, Egypt having 80 plus billion people, Turkey 90 plus, if not more, the Levant, Saudi, Bahrain, and so on, there is a big population in this part of the world that is super dependent on import of food. And I think we need to deal with this very actively.
Awesome, thank you, Rami. Magdi, I want to pass the mic to you as well. What is your thoughts on the future of food entrepreneurship, especially with your experience on the HoReCa sector as a consultant, as a business developer? How do you see the challenges and potentials in that?
Well, actually, as we were just discussing before the panel start, unfortunately, we are a bit in this part of the world behind when it comes to entrepreneurship in the food, and especially on the agriculture side. You'll find a lot of investments or projects in the food service sector, as in restaurants, cafes, and what might have you. But unfortunately, on the growing side of it, which is extremely important and much more viable than the service sector, it's very shy. And I think it's attributed to many things. Part is the challenges that are in the region, whether it's water shortage, weather conditions, and also the governments playing a vital role to encourage and, as you mentioned in the previous panel, to make agriculture sexy again. I mean, to make it appealing to people. Because when you think of, the perception on agriculture is like, it's dirt, it's mess, it's issues, So I think that perception needs to change. And there are now the technologies and the know-hows that the Western world has come up with that makes farming a totally different thing than what it was 20, 30 years ago. So I think there is an important role here for governments to really emphasize on that, support that, and focus on that. And like the example on Lebanon, startups that, incubators or support systems that focus mainly on this part of the market and the potential it has to give, because food security is an extremely important thing with what's being known as the future wars will be fighting for water, not oil. Right. So this makes food security more and more important and viable.
Thank you so much, Magdi.
Magdi, can we make the food and the agriculture take more sexy and more tasty?
Yes, that's definitely.
Can we just add the tasty part?
Yes, definitely. When we grow it ourselves, it will become more tasty, definitely, yes.
Awesome. And Rashid, I want to pass the mic to you. So how do you see the future of agriculture entrepreneurship in the region, and what are the challenges and potentials on your behalf?
I believe it's a shared responsibility. Obviously, it starts with the producers, the growers, the farms, the factories, the people that are actually producing. But for a country and a region that has to look at this as a serious issue and look at this as a concern for the future and look to improve this situation, it has to be a shared responsibility. I dream up a scenario a lot. I find myself, the farm is far away. We're in the desert here. I know for the people not living in Bahrain, you do not believe me when I say far away, but for the Bahrainis, 45 minutes is a lifetime journey in our country.
And in the middle of the desert.
In the middle of the desert, yeah. We have to take like food, water, pillows, stuff like that just to get there. I have my passport today because I'm here. I dream up a scenario where there's a shared responsibility. You have the businesses themselves that are focusing on quality, focusing on innovation, focusing on sustainability and consistency. You have the government sector focusing on initiatives that are helping the local production. That's very important. Whether it be maintaining a support system for the locally grown products, helping maintain, if a product is needed, it can be imported, but if it is not required, maybe work on that. There are many ways to look at it. Starting up a campaign We were discussing earlier about health. Today, everyone, when they walk in a supermarket, they grab the product, they read all the nutritional facts before they consume and purchase and consume any product. Well, unfortunately, capsicum, one bell pepper, doesn't have any nutritional facts on it. And you all, including myself, believe that making a salad with tomatoes, capsicum, and cucumber is probably healthier than a bag of chips. So let me do that for dinner. Well, there's one capsicum and tomato may be different than another one. One that was harvested 2 days ago and placed in the supermarket has higher vitamin C content, higher nutritional value than one that was imported and put in several cold chain situations and brought overseas. That kind of knowledge should be made readily available to the public, and I'm the first one to say it, and I'll say it every day. I'm on camera, so please put this out on Instagram, guys. Local products are actually better for you. They have more nutritional value. So imagine a world where people know that, where the farming community, the factories producing the food, they know that, and legislation is made to assist. Then we start to catch up and overtake the best food production countries and regions in the world, because we have it in us. We can be the best.
Of course. And I actually have a follow-up question. We talked about that prior panel as well. Urban farming versus the mass production and supporting the mass agriculture production or investing more on urban farming. Which side are you, in your perspective? Which side you would go more deeper on that?
I will speak on a personal level here. I'll talk about my own experience. I run a business where I'm fortunate enough to have quite a large plot of land, and we decided to start the business with hydroponic lettuce and tomato. Initially, we were approached by many companies to look into vertical farming systems. One thing to know, there are growers and there are greenhouse builders. A grower is going to be the one who's dealt the hand and has to deal with this and build it. A greenhouse builder might sell equipment that works somewhere. It may not work where you are. So I had to study my environment. And one of the first things I studied was the sun. So going vertical farming may work if you're going to have to produce a different source of light. But when you have a wonderful sun, going with a flatbed floating raft system works very, very well, and produces quality and speed faster than grow lights. So you have to study where you're growing, the environment, the weather, the humidity, the seasons. We live in our industry is a planning industry. Everything is way in advance, and people sometimes forget how much future thought a farmer has to think. So for me, I think vertical farming is important to know, but right now we need to start just farming anything. Just get the stuff that's good and get it in the markets.
Right.
Vertical farming is something we will reach, but let's not get the medicine ready before the sickness arrives. I tried to translate it like an Arabic proverb there. It sounds weird in English. I'll let that.
صح؟ chicken and egg.
Yeah,
صح؟
yeah. No, تجهز الندوة قبل الفلعة.
هذا هي.
Yeah. It's a good one. Ask your friends. Ask your friends.
Awesome. So I wanna move into the trends now, because vertical farming is also a trend. In the world we see a macro trend regarding on food entrepreneurship and agriculture entrepreneurship, and we need younger farmers for sure. That is a fact. So if we are making agriculture again, as we discussed before, and sexy and cool again, and we need younger farmers to do that, what's the role of education in there? Again, that's my I always ask that question. Like, how can we involve? We're talking about governmental organizations. We're talking about the private sector, etc. But how can we add to the education to the picture? This is a question for really all of you, because education is always a topic on my mind to ask about.
I guess education, any sector.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I have to give we have to mention the National Initiative for Agricultural Development here in Bahrain, NIAD. This organization does amazing work supporting agriculture for the younger generation. They hold workshops, encourage schools to have small nurseries, hold field trips, and they inspired me to open up the farm for school visits. So having the youth see what can be done. It's not easy. Starting up a farm is not the fastest way to maybe invest your money, but there is a value in it that is much more long term, and I think we understand that and hope to relay that message to everyone else. So in Bahrain, NIAD is doing an amazing job promoting agriculture for the future.
Awesome. You guys want to? Yeah.
I think I would second what Sheikh Rashid is saying, and I believe in grassroots. So again, going down to schools, going down to children to educate them as they grow and to understand what's good for them, what's important for them, how hard it is to get the fruits and vegetables on their plate, and how important it is of value that these products come the way they are. So I believe there's a lot of need to educate from the grassroots, and as well, I think there is a problem now about what's good for you. You know, the normal consumer understanding of nutrition is very, I would say, vague, unclear in a lot of cases. So I think that's a global problem, not only in this part of the world. So
For sure.
I think there really needs to be an effort to really educate people on nutrition, real nutrition, and the value of how agriculture is important to your personal well-being and the whole nation's well-being. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's.
Do you guys want to add something?
Rashid was saying before the panel that he asked the kids how many times a day they eat, and I think that's a basic question that a lot of us tend to forget, that it's one of the things that we do the most in our life is eating.
Sure.
And I think educating people on eating healthier, understanding where their food comes from, understanding the impact of their food if they waste it or they mistreat it, or and understanding the whole process of producing food is crucial to get people to rethink the way they eat, consume, and discard the foods.
Of course.
I guess it is the same way that we always go and debate about entrepreneurship, that it cannot be taught in a classroom. I guess it's the same thing. There is no entrepreneur 101 such as finance 101. Agriculture and food is the same thing, right? There is no agriculture 101. This is not something will be taught in a classroom. This is something has to be tested. This is something that you're going to be through failures of probably 100 times till you reach where you are aiming to reach. So the idea behind education and thought is in the field, and it is the time of test and the time of failure that you're probably, some of it get learn out of it, as what Sheikh Rashid were talking about. Would you learn from your failure? I said, no, because I just repeat the same failure again in other companies that I have set. So it is just the repetitive part of it. And here in the Gulf, really, I salute Sheikh Rashid for what he has done in the farming part, because we are a nation in the Gulf, not just adore real estate, but we are depending on building real estate. So we always look at those farms as a real estate. We always look at those farms as the land appreciate, and then we're going to be selling it rather than we're going to be doing harvesting, right? And I mean, there is a sovereign fund in the Gulf who has set up a $5 billion fund for food security, and I'm not going to mention the name of the country. And the first thing they have done, they drop in $1 billion in Australia for livestock, $1 billion in Brazil, and guess what? They bought a land. They want to do the breeding. And I go and say, like, why do you want to do the breeding? You're not the farmer. You're not the one who's going to wake up 6 o'clock in the morning and looking after those sheep. You just have to provide logistics, right? So to order for you to maintain the food security for a livestock that has to come to the Gulf, you need to own that chain rather than own that land. So that's the...
Perfect. I want to move into the food in a bit as well, and also the startups, since we talked about entrepreneurship, since we talked about food entrepreneurship, agriculture entrepreneurship as well. Are there any startups or companies that you would like to mention, or for us to definitely follow out and check it out from here, from the region, that could be models for the food and agriculture entrepreneurs who will be going into the sector, to the business itself, as basically.
Business itself, I think it's a role model. Your company is a role model.
I was going to say, I don't know. I'm too not even neck deep into the farm, so I'll get closer. Don't worry, I'll get him in there.
Yeah,
all right, here we go.
No, I thought I was
yeah, turn it up, guys.
Turn
Turn
it
it up. Yeah, I appreciate that. I believe that there are other companies. I don't know who they are, only because I am neck deep in the farm. I don't know what's out there. But something to just a tip. There's a lot of people thinking about a lot of ideas. You have to find the gap. It's one thing to say, I can grow tomatoes and lettuce. I'm going to start a farm. I'm not telling you don't. I'm just telling you, right now in Bahrain, we have a lot of tomatoes and lettuce. Can we grow, I don't know, cucumbers or eggplants or peppers or figs or or strawberries, or there's a lot of opportunity in agriculture. And yes, tomatoes are relatively simple. They're not so simple when you go very commercial. They're simple in a backyard. But let's not just be a copycat league. Let's work together and work with each other. The farmers in the market, in the farmers market, you walk around there and you see all the beautiful things that they have and they're able to grow in Bahrain. It inspires me to try new things at the farm and expand what I can do. So just I want to hear about the other startups. You guys know. I don't know about anyone else.
I think one of the interesting businesses in agriculture is a few companies, and one of them is in Dubai. They have in UAE. They have started an investment opportunity in hydroponics. So they offer you to buy some sort of share in a farm, and
Nice.
they do the whole management for you, and they sell the crops, and then of course you get your payback there and then. So it's kind of an investment model, but it's available for individuals, so anyone can venture into that. The ticket size is not very big. So I think these are one of the ideas, initiatives that can encourage people to get closer without being burnt, because there's someone who's an expert who's managing this. So I think this is one of the good models. The farmers market, like what Sheikh Rashid is mentioning, I think this model has swept the region, and I think it's a great model because it really exposes the normal individuals to how important farming is, and to let them know that these products are grown in their country or where they're living. I mean, when I visited the farmers market in Bahrain for the first time, I was surprised as well. I mean, wow,
Yeah.
can all of this be grown here with that quality and that weather? So it opens up your eyes to a lot of things. So I think these individual separate initiatives are definitely something to be looked at. But again, I think there's a lot that needs to be done to really take the entrepreneurship model into the agriculture sector to a great extent. And as well, if I may add, on not only agriculture, but also on food manufacturing and processing. Because again, we in this part of the world, we import, if not 80%, then at least 50% in some categories. So there's a huge opportunity for that. And what we have here is mainly multinational companies opening up manufacturing and production operations here. So why can't the entrepreneurs in this region start their own packaged goods range? So that's another big opportunity in the food sector in the region.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For us in Lebanon, we've supported a number of startups that are quite interesting. One of them is working on food production, so they've worked on a sous vide technique to cook ready-to-eat meals with no preservatives, for example, called Smart Gourmet, and they're doing awesome. They have started moving into different countries. I think Kuwait, UAE, Lebanon, and a number of other countries now. We have another startup called Regino that's working on a traceability solution from farm to consumer, bypassing all through the production value chain to help farmers be able to trace all their products all the way. We have another one that is working on AI-based fruit sorting machine to be able to sort them based on size, maturity, and defects. And the sizes of those machines are adaptable, so even if you have a small or medium farm, they will be able to adapt it and maintain it for you through a leasing mechanism, and many more. Another one is working on a smart trap to minimize the impact of the Mediterranean fruit fly by providing, notifications to farmers on the stages of growth of the Mediterranean fruit fly. That way they can, do preventive measures rather than, just overspraying the fruits to be able to make sure that they are exportable. One of the major problems in Lebanon is that we overspray our fruits and vegetables because we don't want to have them damaged. So by that, we will be able to win on both sides. So these are some of the startups that we're working on. We've had a couple also in irrigation as well. So a lot is coming up, and I think we need to balance production. So we need to see more like Sheikh Rashid producing and developing farms that are, smart, modern, effective and efficient, but at the same time we need to be able to develop IPs that would, enhance and support local culture and local production, from date farming to, bees to whatever. There's a lot of technologies that could be used to improve traditional agriculture that's based on this region as a whole.
Thank you.
I guess, are we differing from the food agriculture or the the food tech or the agri-tech, right? Sure. Now, in the agri-tech, I haven't seen much, but in the food tech, there are good examples. Talabat or Courage or even the Hunger Station is a good examples of a food tech, and I think they had a good exit as well. And then you find the family conglomerates, which happen to be that they buy a big piece of lands in the middle of deserts, like Khalid al-Tuwajri in Saudi in the north, which he has like 100 kilometers, which he has now from 100 olive tree. Now he has 10,000 olive tree. You'll find this a lot in Saudi, by the way. So it's a huge land, and they acquired it as a real estate, but it ended up to be harvesting. But that has nothing to do with tech again. So in the food tech, we've seen a lot, but in the agriculture, that's new. That's thrilling news to me that in Dubai there are a few of them are working in agri-tech.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. These are my questions. So we're going to turn the audience now. If you do you have any questions regarding on food entrepreneurship, please. Just a second.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes.
I was just wondering. I'm from Bahrain Polytechnic, and my students come up with the business ideas, and occasionally they come up with hydroponic.
Can you move the microphone?
Sorry,
yes.
hydroponic farming.
Yep.
And their impression is that if they do like tomato, lettuce, cucumbers, generally hydroponic farming without subsidy is not economically viable. Is their impression correct?
It is changing. Today it's easier to invest and start to recoup your funds than it was 7 years ago. And I believe 7 years from now, it will be also easier. I believe the market, one, accepts local products a lot more now. Two, there's a new model with EWA, Electricity and Water Authority. It's called net metering. This allows any business, any home, anyone to put a solar panel in their property and sell back electricity for credit. This is a new thing. It's not actually active everywhere, but it's about to be. When this is active, a project like a farm can reduce their electricity bill. And in reducing their electricity bill, then you have a chance, much more chance, to get your money back in the investment and start to make profit. It is not simple. It is not easy. There are a lot of hurdles. But if you find your niche, you can flourish.
Could I ask another question? Just a small question.
Just a small one, Flo.
Yeah. You know, given the livestock and cattle you breed for milk, I assume that's quite a water-intensive business?
Yeah, we have for dairy production. For the dairy production, we have goats. So that is more for milk production. It's different. We have sheep for meat. I save a lot of water with my hydroponic farm. I spend a little water with animal, breeding. But we don't have a lot of meat here in Bahrain either. So that's another problem we got to think about. We bring in the meat from outside. You go to the supermarkets, you see what's there. We got to start somewhere. I'm trying to be efficient with electricity, with water, but I'm also trying to think of the future and say, I don't want to get to a point where I have a problem. So
We're going to move into the next question.
Yeah, my name is Johnson. My question is to Mr. Tawash, really. But you just mentioned the service of talabat and really, and hunger line or carriage. Where are we heading in this, in this area? That's part one. The other one, do you suggest we should have more regulations on the services to ensure quality, freshness, delivery, really traffic, respecting traffic laws? Do you think we should really regulate this line of service, or it's not time yet?
Doctor, I guess where we're heading when you refer to talabat, and I heard Karim, if that's correct, and the terms of exit, right? It does take companies, and they are realizing now a good exit. I think we're going to see more of that. We have been missing that for years. We have been hibernating, actually, in the Gulf with unrealized exits. So with talabat, with carriage, with the hunger station now as food, with Karim, with Souq.com and others, this is what all startups care about, honestly. I mean, when the startups knock the door in my accelerator, CH9, and say, I'm going to set a company, when I'm going to exit. That's the first question they ask about, because they know they're going to go through a journey of tiring, journey of sweating, journey of diluting and probably losing all their resources in funding and health as well. That goes with it. But he knows there will be an exit, right? So they would always think about exit, and it's realizing here in the Gulf finally. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it in the big ticket, but we haven't seen it yet really in the small ticket. The big ticket I really would never target and will never look after. I would look after the $10 to $20 million kind of exit, because that's what really going to cover the mass rather than just one or two. What's the other question exactly, doctor? It's related to regulation. I think it's the customer protection that Sheikh Rashid could talk about it better than me, because he is in the production. The customer protection department in each and every either health department in the Gulf, in the world, or in Ministry of Commerce, I think there is a huge role they have to put in for those tech companies, whether agriculture or food, to be monetized, to be controlled, to be supervised. How they doing this? I don't know.
I think they're coming. I think regulations are coming. In UAE, they have food authorities, the government, food authority that monitors the safety of the food transport, that monitors the safety of food production. We have the Ministry of Health. We have the Ministry of Works with the Department of Agriculture underneath. We have the environment. We have the municipalities. But I think eventually we will have one entity that takes care of these things. I have my concerns. I think I understood your question of who's monitoring this stuff, right? I'm ordering these foods, and what do I know what they're doing? I think that's what you were getting at. I have the same concerns too. I think the future of the idea is developing to not just having food come from a restaurant. I offer a service now where I can send food from the farm to your house. I think that's the step before. So I think you'll have a step before taking from actual ingredients and sending them over. There's great companies now that, what is it called? Blue Apron in America, and I think there's other ones in our region that encourage people to cook. So they basically set up the full menu of your 4-person or 3-person or 2-person dinner, a full meal kit, and they give you the instructions of how to cook. And they send the little package there with 2 cloves of garlic and a little thing of salt. And really, it's all set up there. You just do it. So there's a lot of opportunities in that. But we need to regulate it. And I think they will come.
Are you going to answer? Okay. We're going to move into our last question.
Yeah, I like to address Sheikh Rashid. I mean, like, congratulations and hats off to you. You've chosen a path less traveled in this region.
Thank you. And
I honestly salute your bravery. I come from a farming family, so I know what it takes. I know what you go through on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Mighty, mighty brave of you to go by that.
Thank you.
God bless you with your endeavor. Coming to my question was, how chemically neutral is your process? That's one. I mean, what additives do you use in your farming process? My second thing would be, how do you manage your cattle waste and how do you manage your cattle feed?
Good.
Thank you.
Very good questions. Thank you for asking them. About, like you meant pesticides and stuff like that, that's what you meant? I'm not a scientist, but here's what I know. Yeah, here's what I know. There's generally 2 kinds of pesticides. You have a systemic pesticide and you have a contact pesticide. A systemic pesticide, when you spray it onto a plant, it goes into the plant. If an insect comes and takes a bite, the insect will die. A contact pesticide is more of a surface spray. It has a residual period, and after 6, 8, 12 hours, whatever it may be, it will evaporate away. I attempt to use no pesticide. Although there are times of the year where, whether it's high humidity, rains, issues like that, if I must, I start with natural methods, and if it becomes an issue, I go with a contact pesticide that has a residual period, followed by a test with the ministry and a test in private lab to make sure that what it says on the bag is actually what's happening in reality. So that's how I've been doing it. I don't claim to be organic, mostly because I believe that word has become a commercial word and lost most of its meaning. That's my point of view, and I'm stubborn and I don't want to pay a big fee for someone to tell me your product is good. I think my product is good, so that's just where I stand. Animal waste, when you work on a farm, you try to use everything you got. So we definitely take all the animal waste and we grow animal food. So we are starting the process now of increasing barley, wheat, elephant grass, which is something local here, working with what we can. We do import some, especially for the milk, for the goats, for the milk, because we got to keep their diet better than mine at all times. And that's what we do. That's how we work it.
Cool, perfect. I wanted to thank you, our panelists, to our great answers, and I wanted to thank you for joining us.
Final closing, just a few words.
So sure, if you wanna.
I'll just drop in the last wording that yesterday we worked with 70 countries in the mapping of the ecosystem, and what's fascinating about the sector, and each and every this country they comes, I will take the sample of Africa. So there were like about 20 countries from Africa, which we were mapping their ecosystem and their startups as well as the sector. And many of them, they come and say, oh, we're doing edtech, we're doing medtech, oh, we're doing fintech, some of them. But you know what really make a difference to us these days? That everybody is going through an agri-tech. Because the African nation is rich with agri-tech, and this is what they really do in terms of each and every family are expert on. So they just now, many of the African nations has chosen only one sector, which is agri-tech, to proceed and to get more of startups happening in the agri-tech in specific.
It's great. Do you guys want to have last remarks?
I think we're at the starting line of that journey of pushing more innovation in agriculture, and I think I invite you all to be part of that evolution or revolution, to be able to really produce and be proud of what the region can do in a sustainable way.
Yeah, I cannot add more. So I think the next big entrepreneurship scene should be on agriculture, definitely, and on food security in general, and again, agriculture being at the core of it. So that's definitely a no-brainer.
I just want to thank all of you for being here. I mean, it's an important thing. I think this is a very important topic, and for you guys to be involved, it inspires me to keep going. You know, and hopefully next year we're in the big hall over there talking about tomatoes and lettuce and stuff like that. So thank you.
That'd be awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.